Hey everyone, it's Chris Gio coming to you from Beyond the Veil. I wanted to do a quick morning time video. Once again, got my coffee, got my e-cigarette, and I'm contemplating the meaning of life and the universe and interacting with a few people here and there. One person commented and said, hey, check out Max Spears. He's talking about 9/11 and the Crowley ritual to open up the gates. And I agree with that. 9/11 was an opening of a portal. It was the opening of a gate to allow things to come in. And I replied and I said, I've heard of him, but I've never really gotten into his work. I know that he was recently murdered at a mansion in England or something like that. Don't know why he was there. And then Andrew replied, hey, check out the video. I have set it right to where he talks about 9/11 and Crowley. I said, watching it now. And then I replied, I agree with him on opening the gates and letting lower dimensional beings in. The New Age push to raise Earth to 5D is really a ploy to allow these things in. They're trying to break down the system firewalls. Very few people understand this, though, and they think we're all going to sing Kumbaya in 5D Earth. Nina replied, and she said, can you explain to me how this New Age raise Earth to 5D allows them in? I just saw someone posting that yesterday, and 9919 portal. Is this all connected? So there was a lot of gnosis and a lot of journey that I had to go through, because first I was all about, hey, we're going to ascend to 5D. Aliens are going to come open up portals. We're going to get on the ships. We're going to sing Kumbaya. But we've been warned about this for quite some time. If you go back to that old Twilight Zone episode, To Serve Man, it was about aliens that had landed and they wanted a few of us to go back to their planet, and they left a book in the congressional hall or wherever it was that they were doing their speech, and they decoded the book, and it turned out to be a cookbook. It's a cookbook. I'm sure you all remember that. But the idea of aliens coming in and taking us to 5 Earth or whatever is a very, very old idea. And in my humble opinion, it comes from, and this is just, what I've learned through my journey, it comes from a need for escapism. There were a lot of things that I tried to escape into. Up to this point, there was false flag terror attacks. Oh, there's going to be a huge false flag terror attack. It's going to completely change the world, and all of my problems are just going to go away. Same with Nibiru. Oh, Nibiru is going to come through. It's going to smash the earth. I was looking for an end time prophecy that was going to come true. Everywhere I would turn, I would look for something. Oh, it's going to be 11/11/11. Oh, it's going to be 9/11/11. Oh, there's going to be this. There's going to be that. So on and so forth. And I realized that I wasn't doing anything with my life. I wasn't progressing. Now, life's not a good word. I was doing something with my life, my consciousness. My consciousness wasn't progressing because I was constantly looking for escapism or a way out of 3D, a way out of my reality right here and right now. But I realized that the key is to master 3D, not try to escape 3D. Once I started becoming the master of my reality, everything started to change. Things became much easier to deal with. Energy started to flow much easier and much more fluidly. And I found true happiness. Like I really did. Like I'm really happy. Cherie and I just had a wonderful, wonderful experience over the weekend. And we made out for hours and hours and hours while we were on this, and just merged with each other and reconnected, and it was total happiness and love. We talked about you guys and gals out there. We talked about some of our friends. We talked about how lucky we were to be surrounded with such wonderful people. We didn't escape to 5D. As a matter of fact, I guess let me just tell you the full story. We dropped Somali, and I put out to the universe, I don't want any gnosis. I don't want any spiritual stuff. I don't want any battles. I just want love, and I just want to reconnect with my twin and just connect even further with my twin, which we do from time to time. And no gnosis, no battles, no strife, no struggle, nothing but love. What I needed in this particular experience was to remember everything is great the way it is. There's a virus in the system, but the thing is, I've disconnected myself from the virus, and I've talked about this in previous videos. I've disconnected myself from the emotional impact the virus was having upon me, and as a result, I became the warrior. I sharpened my sword, and I learned how to use my shield, and as I said in the previous video, shield, sword, shield, sword. But many people don't realize that that's the progression, shield, sword. They just want to jump into the battle, and they're thrown into the battle with no training, with no ability to disconnect emotionally, and it's turning into basically trauma-based mind control. See the last video for more on that. But back to the idea of 5D Earth. I started to realize as I journeyed that I needed to become the master of my reality, and then I started to really understand the system. I mean, my journeys have taken me to be able to bring out a full schematic of the system. And there's a video called "What is the Aten?" ATEN on our channel too, if you want to check that out. Full map of the system, why the system was created, how it operates, what it does, how the energy moves back and forth within the system, how it keeps the energy from getting stagnant, so on and so forth. But there was a breach in the system, and that's how this virus came in. So when a virus works on your computer, how exactly does it work? Well, it starts to breach the system. First, it tries to breach the antivirus. If it can get past the antivirus and you run that program, then that program can start accessing other parts of your computer, system files and things like that. One of the most common viruses is a Trojan virus that resides in the background and gives somebody else full access to your computer to copy files, to delete files, and you don't even know you have a Trojan. Everything is just working completely in the background. There's like a whole new desktop that the remote attacker sees, and you don't see anything. You don't see your mouse moving or anything like that, even though some Trojans, you do see mouse moving. You do see keys being stroked. Keys being stroked. That's my 13-year-old mind there. You see keys being logged. Keystroke logger is what I was getting at. But anyways, the second most common virus is a browser hijack and a browser redirect. And I'm sure you've experienced this before because it happens all the time. You download a plugin or you don't know what you're doing and you run the wrong program, or sometimes you run a program that's legitimate and it's got something else attached to it. And then your browser starts acting all funky. And you type in google.com and you're taken to bestcoupondeals.com. And you're like, oh, what the hell's going on here? You type in google.com again, and then google.com may show up and you click on one of the results and you're taken again to bestcoupons.com. And it's like, what the hell's going on here? So you uninstall your browser, you reinstall it, you go through all your plugins, you start uninstalling plugins, you go through recent programs, and you start uninstalling recent programs going, what the heck is going on here? What that virus has done, because every time you do that, it's still there. What that virus has done is actually accessed your system files. There's a file on Windows called hosts, and this hosts file tells your internet connection how to work. So the most common thing in the host file is going to be local equals 127.0.0.1. So, or the other way around, I don't remember off the top of my head. But it's different redirects like that. And you can actually block certain sites, like some cracked programs and hacked programs will do this. You'll run the crack and it'll actually access hosts, the host file, and it'll say, do not access this website. Or if this website is accessed, then redirect it to localhost. And that will prevent the software from being able to contact the home base and check for authentication, or it'll redirect it to another website that sends back a legitimate authentication. That's how these cracks work. So what this virus does is it'll get into your host files and start putting in all these redirects, Google, Yahoo, so on and so forth, redirected to bestcoupons.com. So constantly when you're using any web browser, you're constantly getting this redirect because that virus has accessed a part of the system that it's not supposed to access. Now, these system files are hidden most of the time even from the user. You have to specifically go into a part of Windows and you have to specifically say, show these system files. And then you get a big warning that says, don't mess with these unless you know what you're doing. And even to open up that hosts file, you have to run it as an administrator, which is why a lot of software cracks you have to run as an administrator. You have to give it administrative privileges. So try to open up your host file and then save it. Doesn't work. You have to open it up with a notepad that has administrative access. So a lot of times, that's how these viruses work. And they get into your system file, sometimes infect the system so badly that there's no other choice but to reinstall Windows altogether. And an antivirus may detect the initial virus file, but it doesn't detect all of the changes or reverse all of the changes that this virus could have potentially done. So coming back to the idea of shifting Earth into 5D, if the reality that we live in is a well-designed system, then it would be firewalled and there would be different security elements to ensure that certain programs don't have access to other programs. And it would require the user to somehow give access to those other programs to the system files, whether it's giving administrative access to your cracked file, or being fooled into running something as an administrator, or opening up a notepad as an administrator and editing that file. The user has to do it. And that's just the way it is. So we like to think of 5D as somewhere that we're going to ascend to, as something that's better than here. But why do we automatically assume that 5D is better than this reality here? I would venture to say that the way that the system works is that this is the center point right here and right now. Reality and the different dimensions, in my opinion, is more like a sphere or a record. Not a sphere, it's a flat, but it's more like a record. And you have your center point of this circle. We're at the center point. This is where the game is being played. We're at the middle of the Coliseum, right here and right now. We're at the ground floor. This is it. We have sight, we have sound, we have all kinds of things. We have a whole dynamic going on here. You know, this is where the experience happens. These beings from 5D, which in my opinion are just programs and they're manifestations of the system itself, are background workers. They're supposed to be working to keep the game going. But they went into the game and they want to experience the game and they want to control the game as well. So the grays are 5-dimensional beings. Why the hell do we want to shift up to where the grays are? Nobody's asking that question, but I think most people will agree the grays are 5-dimensional beings. So they can shift in and out of frequency. They can only stay here for a short period of time. And I think that radiation and other things like that allow them to come in even more, which is why they're trying to really radiate this particular field here so they can exist within our sphere even more. I think that's why when we detonated the atomic bomb, we opened up a portal and allowed them to come in and out and in and out and in and out. And they've realized that, and the more that we get radiated here, the more access they have to come in here. But why do we want to allow these programs to come in here? Now, they're telling us that we're going to go there and that there is so much better, but we have no freaking idea what's there. And I would say there is nothing there. There is no kumbaya. There is no existence. There's none of that. There's electrons and light and all of that. And it's just information and data just being moved back and forth in order to create this reality here and to run the game itself. It's like opening up your system folder on Windows and going, okay, let's see if we can find anything interesting going on here. Oh, well, you have this and this and this and this and this and this, and it's like, well, there's nothing interesting there. But if you open up your main drive or where you store your pictures, where you store your videos, where you store your games, that's where all the fun stuff is. That's where all the dynamic stuff is. That's where all the stuff that's most interesting to most users. But these barriers have been breached. And I started to think to myself, how do we rebalance the system? Well, we have to set the firewalls back up. We have to expel these things out of our dimension, which has started to bleed back in. We have to seal up the portals. We have to seal up the walls. And we have to make the best of what we can out of 3D. Now, once these things are out of here, once the virus is removed, 3D goes back to the way that it's supposed to be, which is supposed to be a fun game that's dynamic. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be so horrible. And it's really not that horrible in your own individual consciousness as a whole. It's very fucked up. But even as fucked up as it is, you can still play the game and you can have fun playing the game and you can love the game and you can love everything around you and recognize that there's a virus. And so the fucked up things that happen is just a result of that virus and nothing more. But yeah, 5D, it seems like a trap. It seems like let's try to get them, the users, to open up the gates, telling them that they're going to come over here. But in actuality, when those gates open up, they're coming in here. That's why you've got all these different AI manifestations like Palladians and Arcturians and all kinds of BS like that. And they're like, oh, they're aliens. They want to come in here. Well, they can't. They can't affect this world. They can only guide us because it's against universal law. Yeah, you know why it's against universal law? Because they have firewalls in place where they can't breach those firewalls. But we're allowing them to breach the firewalls. This is the way that I see it. In order to fix things, you don't change it. You take it back to the state that it was before it was broken. That's what fixing something is. And if we're enhancing things, that's completely different. But this place is broken. So if this place was running optimally and everything was great, then we can look and say, well, how can we enhance this game? How can we make it better? But the thing is broken. It's like, here's base. It's all the way down here. And now we're saying we're going to fix it and raise it all up to here. Well, hold on. Let's get it back up to base first. I would say that's first and foremost. That's the key right there. Let's get it back to base level first and foremost. So those are my thoughts on 5D and how 5D is essentially a trap. Now, there are the system administrators of the game, myself and many of you out there. We as system administrators, we can access all dimensions. We have abilities that are extra dimensional abilities, and we can bring them back into this space to help fix this space. And I think that's the reason why we came here, is to come in here and try to fix this space, not try to move this 3D Earth into something else where the grays, we're taking it right into the den of the virus. The virus exists in 5D. From what I've been able to gather, the virus exists between the 5th and the 9th dimension. Anything from there is virus infected heavily, and it's bleeding down into here. But again, I don't think it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 progression, but rather it's a space. It's just like rooms, like room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4, room 5. I don't think it's an up and down progression. But let's say for a moment that it is. Okay, because one of my initial thoughts was that this is a university, and a lot of people would agree with this. This is a place of learning, and we come here to learn how to be better. When we're better, then we move up into the next level of the game, or the next level of the game. So let's theorize on this for just a moment. So what happens if you're in 3rd grade, and you say, hey, you know what? I want to just go ahead and jump to 5th grade, but I don't really want to learn multiplication and division yet. And you get to 5th grade and it's all multiplication and division. And you're like, oh, well, I haven't learned this yet. How is it that you're going to jump from 3rd grade, fail 3rd grade multiple times, and then jump to 5th grade? You've got to learn multiplication and division before jumping to 5th grade. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to complete 5th grade. You're just going to be stuck in a perpetual cycle of not being able to complete that. So that's another way to look at things. And that's why it brings me back to the entire idea of mastering the 3rd dimension. I don't think we're going anywhere until we master the 3rd dimension. So that should be the focus, in my humble opinion. And that, in my opinion, is going to be the most instant gratification when you start mastering the 3rd dimension. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe on 9/9/19. Actually, today is 9/9/19. Okay, so maybe sometime today, the portal will open and we'll all just disappear. And the only ones watching this video are those that didn't get raptured. Oh, wait, no, rapture's not the right word. Rapture's a Christian ideology. Rapture's what they tell the Christians as a foolish way to make them think they're going to escape the Matrix. Now, this is ascension into another dimension. That's what's going to happen. Ascension into another dimension. Oh, man, it's funny. It's funny. But again, I could be wrong, or I could be right. All I know is that through my journey, I've had to come to a lot of hard truths. And some of the hard truths I realized is that nobody's coming to save us. There are no Arcturians, Palladians, or anything like that. We're the players. It's up to us to save ourselves. It's up to us to fix this 3D. We can do it right here and right now. We exist right here and right now. If there was anything coming to help us, it would have already came to help us by now. I don't think so. I think there's things outside waiting to eat us. And they want us out there so they can devour us because they're infected with a virus. And the whole system is infected with a virus. But it's okay. See, we have to remove the virus from ourselves, create our own personal firewalls. Then we start to remove the virus energetically through everything else in this sphere of consciousness that we find ourselves in. This artificial simulation. But anyway it goes, I think the key is to master this dimension. And I hope that you guys and gals out there can start on that journey to master this dimension, because once you do, this dimension starts to change for you, and then you become the master of your own reality. And that's what it's all about. So on that note, kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be, and we'll see you even further beyond the veil.